Hello, lovely podcast people. I hope you're well. Quick fire podcast today, probably going to be deemed a wisdom podcast. And so I've got two of these actually on different topics. This one I simply wrote down. It was in a meeting with Amy. We're putting together. She's doing the bulk of the work. I'm the advisor, the facilitator. But a resource for our mentees in the Mac Nutrition Mentoring Lab around the concept of motivational interviewing, which I think I've mentioned for those of you who are regular listeners previously. And essentially, motivational interviewing is a technique that I suppose came about because of old school, traditional, I suppose, medical care and the way maybe doctors would act with regards to, or health practitioners would act with regards to encouraging people to make changes in their life. And I think the area where there's the best, I don't know why I'm sort of stuttering today, the most amount of research and evidence of showing its effectiveness is in things like the cessation of smoking and drinking less. Issues with addiction is probably the best way to put it, but it can be applied to a wider realm, i.e., nutrition or exercise, for instance. Now, the traditional thing was like, even in things like wording of like compliance, patient compliance, really is a bit like, I've told you to do this, you need to comply. And if we move forward into more kind of patient or client-centered care, which is what we teach at MNU, there's maybe moving forward to something like adherence is the first step. And it's the easiest word to use to still denote the fact that we need to adhere. We need to actually be, for instance, hitting leucine threshold. You have to adhere to principles to achieve results. So if you want to gain muscle, you need to adhere to those things. If you want to lose body fat, you need to adhere to the principles of fat loss. You don't necessarily need to adhere to eating more vegetables. It might help, but you don't need to adhere. But then we can also move forward when it comes to like habits, and adherence still denotes this thing of like, I've got this. For me, even the word adherence, and here's some wisdom for those of you who are MNU certified nutritionist or MNU students currently, I want you to take this on board, is pondering the idea of adherence. And actually it denotes still a slight lack of flexibility. So I said this thing, and I feel like I've said this somewhere else, but Sarah said, let's write that down. That's golden. And it was something like, true flexibility within any nutritional strategy denotes that adherence will always be 100%. And what I mean by that is, if you always give yourself unconditional permission to X, Y, Z, you're never not adhering. I'm having a maintenance day today. This is why. I have a good reason for this. And there are some grey areas within this when people just simply don't have, and this is where motivational interviewing comes in, they're not even really ever taking the first step into achieving the goal that they're at least outwardly professing to have and wanting having a great desire for. So motivational interviewing is a bit like, so firstly, rather than you will take these pills for your blood pressure, it's instead of that, we go to a more of a patient-led care. And stop drinking alcohol, it's bad for you. Stop smoking, it's bad for you type scenario, to motivational interviewing. And as it sort of says in the title, motivational interviewing. So we're having a chat. It's kind of like an interview. It's a consultation. It's a chat between us. And it's supposed to elicit some motivation in you. It's supposed to elicit your own motivations that will undermine your own apathy for change. So, but I don't want to, I don't want to do more than 1,500 steps a day. It's boring going for walks, blah, blah, blah. Now, and there's lots of stuff, and this isn't really actually what I was supposed to be doing the podcast on, but I just feel like some of you will find this interesting, and I'll stop soon. Because really, I think actually the whole podcast is a very short one, so this filler is good and gives you more context. But there's things like the writing reflex where essentially you just go, like for me, I posted this on my story. I've started, today, if you're on a watching platform, I'm wearing my gym gear. I went into the office on a Saturday in my gym gear because my goal for today was to go to the gym, and I still haven't. And I don't want to go too late. So in this instance, it's a case of, I didn't go to the gym because I didn't take my trainers to work, or I wasn't in gym gear. And so the thing is just like, Martin, come on. Like, just go home, grab your stuff. It's not going to take you too long. That's a righting reflex. And what that can often do, if you've got a family member, you need to stop smoking, mum or dad. What it does is it causes that person to defend the status quo. It's called a righting reflex. Your reflex is just to tell them the answer to fix their problem. Just do X, Y, Z. But the problem is knowledge doesn't lead to application. I would have the best diet in the world because I am the most knowledgeable person on nutrition. I'm joking. But I would have a much better diet than I do if knowledge was directly proportional to the application of that knowledge. But it's not. Knowing something doesn't mean you do it. And that's where stuff like motivational interviewing comes in, and we can help people to develop change talk and move along this this continuum called the readiness to change continuum of whatever the habit is. And all I wanted to talk about really today, and I've lost some of the stuff when I first wrote this down, so hopefully it all comes back to me. All I've written down is alcohol versus food versus exercise. That's all I wrote down. And my point with this was, with the podcast, I often try and have myself talking to lay people as opposed to the practitioners, because I have so much content for practitioners that is really, really flipping good within Mac Nutrition Uni and the Mentoring Lab. I have created brilliant resources for practitioners. Well done me. Good, positive self-talk. And so this is just a thing, wanting to give back to kind of the wider community of people who aren't necessarily in a position where spending loads of money. Obviously, if you come to my tour, if you're local to wherever I do my tour dates, that is applicable to everyone, and it's very reasonably priced, very, very, very reasonably priced, beyond ridiculously good value for money. But anyway, so I have that in my head. So what I want to talk about here, I suppose, is a level of acceptance for some people, in that you don't need to change everything. And I am talking to practitioners and lay people alike. I hope lay people, you're all right with being called that. Nutrition enthusiasts, you guys as listeners, whoever you are. Jumping in, it doesn't matter if you don't feel super ready or super able to change different things. So the reason alcohol was in my head is because, I may have said elsewhere, we did this cancer study session. I think I said this in another podcast that I released maybe over Christmas. But just the experts literally are like, for cancer risk, there is no healthy limit of alcohol intake. Don't drink. Which is a pretty hardcore message, right? And binge drinking is the worst way to drink. But, literally having a glass of wine a night is, also harmful, if I have to be really blunt. And this isn't me telling you that, and I'm not a teetotaler or anything like that, but it's just it's interesting, right? But there are loads of things you can do for cancer risk and all other health risks, health markers, and, your risk of all-cause mortality that you might feel able to do. And it's looking at those, I often use the term low-hanging fruit, like in your life as a whole. Like, you might have a goal that is very body composition related. And actually this is something that I did consider about practitioner responsibility, in that I suppose in my head, actually, there was this element of, often we have personal trainers who are like, I really want to be able to help my clients more. And obviously by doing Mac Nutrition Uni, they become infinitely more capable in, their scope of practice increases, and their, ability to help people massively increases because of the knowledge they gain with regards to nutrition. And exercise is, perhaps a smaller part of the equation when it comes to body composition, particularly the fat loss side of the equation. So there was just something I guess I wanted to say out loud and put across, is that you may get these clients coming to you wanting to lose fat, and you know that the biggest part of that is probably their nutrition. But there's two parts to this. One is their readiness to change. They might be coming to you because they feel ready to undertake an exercise program. And there's loads of stuff I want to say here, actually. And that is fantastic, and you should support them in that, and, not put them down. And I'm saying that like not necessarily that we put or play down the importance of it from the perspective of, you really also need to look at your nutrition. It's like, great, let's get some wins with regards to the exercise and just the huge health benefits. And I think this is what I suppose actually maybe I want to do a second podcast on exercise and health benefits and stuff like that. It was more just a case of your responsibility of, I think the responsibility thing also popped into my head because I had someone message me recently going, is it my job to be advising my clients around alcohol? And they were only a personal trainer, I believe, and or maybe they're a strength and conditioning coach, but obviously some major similarities in terms of scope of practice is what I'm getting at. And it's just these things of, responsibility but not pushing, understanding the readiness to change, right? Someone may be ready to change one thing within this thing and you're brilliant, and you can use successes and you can build relationship to then do this, not necessarily specific motivational interviewing, but using some of those techniques to then encourage changes in other areas of their life. Like me, not bad on my nutrition, could be a lot better, but really I need to, for health and long, healthy aging and through the life cycle, I need to be doing more exercise. More, I don't, people are like, oh, you do loads of weights. It's like, no, I don't really. But I really need to be looking after my heart and my lungs, cardiovascular system. So it's that thing of like, if I had a coach and working with me on my nutrition, and then it's like just over time, gently pushing into the exercise side of things, but understanding the readiness to change and understanding that there might need to be an element of motivational interviewing on that front. You don't need to encourage me to do XYZ or your client. I need encouragement on everything, to be honest. I'm so lazy. The only thing I don't need encouragement on is partying. What does encourageable mean? Does that mean you're not able to encourage them? Alexa, what does encourageable mean?
As an adjective, incorrigible is usually defined as not corrigible, bad beyond correction or reform. As a noun,
that is me, bad beyond correction or reform.
A person who is incorrigible. For more,
Alexa,
ask me to give you...
Stop. Yeah. It's a bit damning, isn't it? Anyway, move on. So just understanding that, like alcohol, exercise, food, they're all different parts of the equation that we can be at different stages of readiness to change for them. And, as individuals, we can give us, accept that then we might not be ready to discuss our binge drinking habits, me, and but we may be ready to consider going for jogs, like I have started. Oh, it's funny, isn't it? I just wonder what people think when I say stuff like that, binge drinking habits. Like, I have had people in the past go to me, are you all right? Like, are you? I'm like, I go out 15 times a year when I do talks, and that's really the only time I drink. Well, not the only time, but it's just like, that's why I put my stories and people see, and it's just like, I don't drink any other time. So I hate alcohol, so don't worry. I'm fortunate I don't have a problem with alcohol, but I do need to, needs and musts, needs and wants. Yeah, but I know this is the thing, right? This is me, like, I just don't judge people. I'm getting so good at being a not judgmental human, by the way. Well done me on that front. In literally just loads and loads of different realms of life. But anyway, what was I saying about being judgmental? I completely lost my train of thought because I went off elsewhere. what people think of me saying that. I'm not binge drinking, la 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 la. I don't know. I think that's the first time I've ever completely lost my plot. Anyway, so as practitioners, as individuals, where we are ready to make changes, where we're not, and again, practitioner responsibility of pushing into things where there's some motivation to change and do things, and then leaving space for change in other areas around, where maybe they are more apathetic towards making those changes in their lifestyle. Right, I think I'm just going to leave it there. Good talk, good chat. I'll go away and... Oh yeah, that was it. Yes! Can maintain my record. I was talking about informed decisions when I said about not being judgmental. It's just that thing of like being informed about what you're doing. Being informed about the types of foods you're choosing to eat, being informed about your drinking habits, whatever. Like for me, it's a case of, that's why I like to talk about nutrition, is not so that you should eat XYZ way. Like if I was super knowledgeable on, and actually, there wasn't so much misinformation or so many agendas around, agriculture and, in the environment and food production. It's just so hard to get a clear picture. Vegans and plant-based individuals talking about, meat production is bad because of X, Y, Z, blah, 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 blah. But then, they've got this massive motive to and seemingly passion for publicizing that information and often cherry picking. And then I think there's a good book, which I've only had someone tell me about the information within. I've never read it because I don't read books. I think it's called The Vegetarian Myth, maybe, which just goes into this whole idea of, the amount of, for instance, death of animals with regards to plant-based agriculture, and but then also the, environmental impact of that as well, as opposed to just like, cows and beef farming and methane and ozone layer being just this one thing that everyone focuses on. Anyway, yeah, cool. Quite a fun podcast, I thought. Let me know what you think. Thanks again for all your reviews. Nice Christmas presents to receive those. And until next time, much love.